And Ukrainian Prism for the last 3 years have been doing a very important project linking Ukraine with different countries around the globe, but naming it the Global Partnership Project. Because we realize that in the current conditions and in general, considering the Ukrainian potential and the connections with different countries around the world, we cannot allow ourselves to have only European relations, and we need to explore as much as possible around the globe. We are very glad that with Chile we have wonderful partners, Lab, that helped us just 2 weeks ago to have the visit to establish this partnership, to have the first contact, and the memorandum that we signed with the Lab just a year ago. So this roundtable is the logical continuation of those efforts that have been started by the Ukrainian Prism and the Lab for the expert diplomacy and the expert communication of two countries. The idea is that in Chile, we were able to have only the small group of the experts, and the online roundtable would allow us to engage a big amount of the experts from two sides. And also the recorded version will be later available at our YouTube channel, so you will be able to listen to those ideas that we have today. I will be your moderator, and Dr. Hanna Schall is the Director for Security Studies and Global Outreach at the Foreign Policy Council Ukrainian Prism. And I'm very glad to greet here our speakers. And definitely we cannot skip the formal part, but sometimes the formal part is the pleasant part when we have a very skillful and respectful ambassadors in the countries that we're talking about. That's why I'm very glad to give the floor and the right for the first word to the ambassador of Ukraine to Chile, Yuri Dudin, to welcome our participants. Sound? Your microphone is off.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how you doing? I started listening right now.
No, Juan. We are now giving the floor to Ambassador to Ukraine, and we see that his microphone is off.
Okay.
What about now? Do you hear me now?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you very much. And distinguished colleagues, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to open this important roundtable. I sincerely thank the Analytical Center Ukrainian Prism for organizing this dialogue platform, which contributes to the development of strategic cooperation between Ukraine and the countries of Latin America. Today's discussion is extremely timely. Ukraine continues to defend its independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity from the ongoing Russian aggression. At the same time, we are actively shaping a new foreign policy architecture, which includes expanding Ukraine's presence in Latin America. Despite the challenges posed by the war, Ukraine remains firmly committed to a strategic course, deepening relations with the countries of the region and laying the foundations for a long-term, mutually beneficial partnership. In January 2024, Ukraine adopted a strategy for the development of relations with the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. Within the framework of its implementation, several new diplomatic missions are planned to open in the region this year, a concrete step towards establishing Ukraine's systematic and sustained presence. When speaking about Chile, it is important to highlight its significant role of this country among Ukraine's partners in South America. Official Santiago has consistently supported Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, advocating for the unwavering observation of the norms and principles of international law. Back in 2014, Chile voted in favor of the UN General Assembly resolution, Territorial Integrity of Ukraine, on March 27. The same year, it transferred responsibility for the Ukrainian portfolio from its embassy in Moscow to the one in Warsaw, a move that reflected a shift in the Chile's bilateral approach amid the beginning of the Russian aggression. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022, Chile has supported all key UN General Assembly resolutions on Ukraine and has co-sponsored many of them. Additionally, Chile has taken other meaningful steps in support of our country, including President Gabriel Boric actively participated in the Global Peace Summit in Switzerland in July 2024 and joined the final communique. The government of Chile officially joined the International Coalition for the Return of the Ukrainian Children abducted by Russia. Chile's Foreign Minister, Mr. Alberto Van Claveren, took part in the Ministerial Conference on the Human Dimension of Ukraine's Peace Formula in Canada, October last year. Chile's political leadership has also repeatedly expressed its solidarity with Ukraine. And I would like to remind that on February 24, 2022, both the ongoing President Sebastián Piñera and the newly elected President Gabriel Boric simultaneously condemned Russian aggression in their respective statements. This was a very complicated job, as I was told by the diplomats from the Chilean Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but they did it. In his first address to the National Congress on June 1st, 2022, President Boric explicitly referred to Russia's action as an illegal invasion, a statement he has consistently reiterated on other events. Throughout 2022-2024, during phone calls and the personal meetings between the presidents of Ukraine and Chile, President Boric reaffirmed Chile's unwavering support of our country and condemnation of the Russian aggression. Just this year, from the beginning of this year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Chile issued 4 official statements of Chilean government in support of Ukraine and condemning Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities. The Chilean side also has expressed its willingness to provide specialists and equipment for humanitarian demining of Ukraine's territories once hostilities cease. A significant expression of solidarity came in August 2023 when the Senate of Chile recognized the Holodomor of 1932-33 in Ukraine as an act of genocide against the Ukrainian people. Moreover, Chile is the only South American country that joined Ukraine's UN General Assembly declarations on the 85th and 90th anniversaries of the Holodomor. While the volume of the bilateral trade between Ukraine and Chile, though still below its potential in many sectors, is gradually recovering to the pre-war levels. In 2024, the total trade turnover exceeded $61 million, with a significant surplus in favor of the Chilean side. Beyond the traditional areas of cooperation, such as mining and food industries, new sectors are emerging. Recently, with the assistance of our embassy, a contract was signed for the delivery of a Ukraine-made wheelset lathe to the Chile's national railway company, EFE. Among the promising areas of cooperation, we can also mention such as delivery of Ukrainian light aircrafts. Only last year, Chile bought about 20 Ukrainian production light aircrafts, export of competitive IT sector products, and the joint drone production for agriculture, emergency response, security, and much more. Historically, Chile has been a model of sound macroeconomic policy, strong institutions, and an open economy. In 2024, Chile's economy grew by 2.6%, the highest rate since the pandemic and above the World Bank's forecast. Still, serious challenges for Chilean economy remain. Inflation exceeds the target range and unemployment stands at 8.8%. Chile maintained a significant trade surplus. In 2024, exports reached $99 billion, while imports totals $84 billion. This reflects the openness of the Chilean market and its potential for new partnership. At the same time, we must be quite realistic while assessing Chile's current political context. The country is approaching presidential elections in November and December, probably. If there will be second round. And these elections are marked by growing polarization. Recent polls show an intense race between candidates from the far right and the far left political camps, both of whom may reach the runoff, leaving traditional centrist forces behind. The possibility that the next president could be a representative of the Communist Party of Chile, currently supported by the 9 parties within the ruling left-wing coalition. This could significantly reshape Chile's political landscape and foreign policy priorities. However, experience shows that even during periods of political transformation, Chilean governments have consistently upheld core principles of foreign policy, including commitment to democracy, rule of law, and respect for the international order. These shared values, along with our mutual interest in economic growth, innovation, and security, provide a solid foundation for the continued dialogue. Dear participants, today's roundtable is not just an exchange of ideas. It's a stimulus for concrete decisions. We have all the prerequisites to open a new chapter in Ukraine-Chile relations. I call for open dialogue, shared vision, and pragmatic cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador. As we saw, the relations after the opening of the embassy, of Ukrainian embassy in Chile, really demonstrate the new stage. And we hope that we would have the same speed of the development of these relations for the next years as well. And who knows, probably soon we would see the Chilean flag in the capital of Ukraine as well, not only as the joint embassy to Poland. And the Ukrainian Prism, preparing for our visit to Chile in August, prepared a comprehensive research about the bilateral relations between Ukraine and Chile, looking to the transatlantic effects of it. Ambassador already gave the background of some of the latest developments in our bilateral relations. So we would ask Ivan Fichko, the expert of the Latin American program at the Ukrainian Prism, to present us his conclusions as the author of that report. So what we identified, why Chile is important for Ukraine, and where is the perspective for these relations?
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you all colleagues. And it's really a great pleasure for me to present our recent analytical study. Let me show the screen with brief presentation. You can see this, yeah? First of all, as we know in general that in the 21st century, Chile has established itself as one of the most developed and stable democracies in Latin America with an open economy and consistent foreign policy. And thanks to its participation in different global platforms and international organizations like APEC or Pacific Alliance, Chile plays an important role as a regional leader and a promoter of democratic values internationally. And we think that these things are actually very important when we talk about possible cooperation with this country. And what's very important is that Chile's foreign policy is grounded in respect for international law and territorial integrity. And importantly, that Chile was among the first in Latin America to condemn Russian aggression against Ukraine in both 2014 and 2022. Consistently supporting our sovereignty and joining peace initiatives and humanitarian efforts. For Ukraine, Latin America has become an increasingly important direction, especially after 2022, when we recognized our foreign policy priorities. Within our 2023 strategy for Latin America, Chile stands out as a key partner and potential getaway for Ukraine's deeper engagement with the region. Let me have a look at the establishment of Ukraine-Chile relations, because actually we have some history and the early stages of our bilateral dialogue. Actually, Chile officially recognized Ukraine's independence on January 9, 1992, and two countries had established diplomatic relations. Then, in the middle of 19th, happened first significant political contacts, including the president of Ukraine, Leonid Kuchma, paid his first visit to Chile as part of Latin American tour. And during that visit, Ukraine and Chile signed their first bilateral agreement, including the agreement on promotion and protection on investment. And to strengthen political dialogue, the two countries launched a mechanism of political consultation, with the first round held in 1998. And later, in 2011, Santiago hosted the inaugural session of the Intergovernmental Commission on Economic and Trade Cooperation. But to be honest, despite these achievements, economic relations between our countries remained limited throughout this period. Bilateral trade meetings were sporadic and mainly took place on the sidelines of international organizations, including the UN, where Ukraine and Chile even coordinated position on some certain elections. Very important, let us now turn to the current state of trade and economic cooperation between Ukraine and Chile. You can see on the screen this diagram of the recent trade and economic cooperation between our countries, and you can see that over the period, over this last 5 years, bilateral trade has remained relatively low in overall volume and has shown a clear asymmetry in favor of Chilean exports. According to the State Customs Service of Ukraine, Ukraine's annual trade deficit ranged between 35 and 51 million dollars of USA, reaching its peak in 2024, with imports from Chile exceeding 86 million dollars. In 2022, bilateral trade fell sharply by 30%. We understand why this happened because of disrupted logistics and the war in Ukraine. But in 2024, we observed signs of recovery. Both imports and exports grew compared to 2023. And Chilean exports are dominated by raw materials and agribusiness products. For example, seafood, frozen fish, exotic fruit, wine, seeds, and pharmaceuticals. Although Ukraine's exports are smaller in volume, they are more diversified and include high-value added products like oil and petroleum products, textile, pharmaceutical goods, and even aerospace technologies. This shows that while the trade balance remains asymmetric, the two economies are complementary, which creates a foundation for deeper economic cooperation in the future and give us hope and positive, optimistic thoughts about this. Also, we can see here that we had different business cooperation investment. We have investment opportunities. Ukrainian business representatives participated in Chile business fairs and other events, and it was very important the existence of Ukrainian Chilean Chamber of Trade and Tourism. Also, we had even a common conference here in Kiev to discuss Ukraine and Chile possible trade cooperation. Again, we haven't reached the peak, and we have a lot of opportunities and progress towards, but it means that we have to work more toward this. And except economical cooperation, we also should discuss about scientific educational cooperations, which that also now is very strong part of our bilateral relations. For example, we must remember that the scientific educational cooperation between countries developing since 1997 intergovernmental agreement on culture, education, and science. And here, a key area of collaboration is Antarctic research. Given its geographical position, Chile provides unique logistical and research opportunities. And since 2018, Ukraine's National Antarctic Research Center has routed its expeditions through Chile, using Punta Arenas as a key hub. Both countries also are active members of organizations such as CAR at COMNAP, and Chile grants Ukrainian researchers access to its Antarctic Institute's infrastructure and laboratories. Another promising areas of scientific cooperation is space research. For example, in 2021, Ukraine and Chile signed a memorandum on the peaceful use of outer space, leveraging Chile's world-class observatories in the Andes. And also academic cooperation is growing. For example, at the beginning of this year, Taras Shevchenko National University and one of the leading university of Chile, Autonomous University of Chile, signed an agreement on joint programs, research projects, and student exchange. And we can see that this partnership show the increasing potential for deeper scientific and educational cooperation. Then we also have to mention about culture cooperation, because it's interesting, but culture connection between our countries go back to the late 19th century, when a world-renowned Ukrainian opera singer Solomia Krushenitzka visited Santiago in 1897. And today, culture cooperation has become more dynamic, especially after Ukraine opened its diplomatic mission in Chile, because the embassy regularly organized culture diplomacy events, including annual commemoration of the Holodomor victims in Santiago. And also, it's very important to remember about the activity of Ukrainian diaspora in the region. So relatively small, about 1,000 people, but still play very important role in promoting Ukrainian interest and in general supporting Ukraine. For example, in 2022, the community registered the Ukrainian Chilean Culture Cooperation Malabo, which organized different events. And this growing cooperation, both through culture initiatives and diaspora activism, strengthens Ukrainian presence and voice in Chile. Despite Chile's general neutral voting pattern in the UN, our bilateral relations have significantly strengthened since 2014. For example, in 2015, Ukraine and Chile signed a visa-free travel agreement, simplifying mobility and boosting culture, business, and tourism exchanges. In 2016, Ukraine obtained observer status in the Pacific Alliance, opening new opportunities for bilateral cooperation. And of course, a key milestone happened in 2018 with the opening of Ukraine's special diplomatic mission in Santiago, upgraded to full embassy in 2021. This allowed us to deepen political dialogue, trade, humanitarian cooperation, and after the full-scale invasion of Russia to Ukraine in 2022, Chile firmly condemned aggression. For example, President Gabriel Boric repeatedly reaffirmed Chile's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and participated in high-level formats, including the Global Peace Summit in Switzerland, the CELAC EU Summit, and other key diplomatic platforms where Chile often advocates for Ukraine. Chile also contributed humanitarian aid, supported Ukrainian refugees, and in December 2022, Parliament of Chile officially recognized the Holodomor as an act of genocide. That, of course, is a historic step symbolizing Chile's solidarity with Ukraine. And today, political, humanitarian, and societal support for Ukraine in Chile remains strong, forming a foundation for closer strategic partnership moving forward. And to sum up, in our research, we also give a chapter of conclusion and recommendation, how, in our opinion, we can improve our relations between Ukraine and Chile. We can firmly state that Chile has demonstrated one of the most principled and pro-Ukrainian position in all Latin American region. And since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion, Chile has constantly defended international law, Ukrainian territorial integrity, and actively participated in global diplomatic initiatives, including the peace formula. And of course, over the past 3 years, our relations have reached a new strategic level, we can say, and Chile has become an important voice for Ukraine on the international stage, from the UN General Assembly to the Global Peace Summit. At the same time, culture diplomacy, academic exchanges, and the Ukrainian diaspora have strengthened people-to-people connection. However, trade and economic cooperation remain underdeveloped. There is significant potential for collaboration in IT, energy, agriculture, pharmaceutical, infrastructure, and investment partnership. And moving forward, we recommend focusing on these priorities like political dialogue, where we can deepen high-level contact, interparliamentary cooperation, and joint position in regional forums. About economic partnership, it's important to relaunch the Joint Economic Commission, explore a free trade agreement, and create new business forums, which allows to connect our and Chileans representatives of business. About public diplomacy, it's important to continue strengthen culture initiatives, academic programs, and Ukrainian studies in Chile's top universities. And about strategic communication, it's important to amplify Ukraine's presence in Chilean media and counter disinformation, because we understand that Russia continues to spread its disinformation campaigns in the region, in Chile also. For example, this year they launched Russia Today broadcasting in Chile television. So this challenge is still important, yeah, for us to counter Russian disinformation. And of course, when we talk about finally, yeah, about Ukraine-Chile cooperation, we can mention about the mining, which is also important considering the situation. Yeah, so we to sum up, we can say that Chile is really a true friend of Ukraine in Latin American region, and we have reached a lot, but still we have more to do. We have a lot of prospects, including economic partnership and political dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was quite, for those who would like to read the full text, it is available in Ukrainian and in Spanish at the website of the Ukrainian Prism. So we hope that it would be of interest for those who would like to see some of these research more in depth. And now it's time to look from another side of the Atlantic. So how Chile sees Ukraine and why Chile is involved with Ukraine all those years. And I'm glad to give the floor to Juan Pablo Toro, the Executive Director of Acela Lab.
Thanks, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the invitation. Do you hear me well? Yes. Okay. Okay. First of all, I'd like to begin with my comments with sharing a thought. A couple of weeks ago, I read a book by a Colombian author titled "Now and at the Hour," which recounts the Russian attack that took the life of the poet Victoria Melina. One phrase especially caught my attention. Quote, "It's not geopolitics, it's not ideology, it's people who teach us to love and give a face and identity to nations." When I received the invitation to this new dialogue with Ukraine Prism, the first people I thought of were is Hannah, Olga, Gennady, and Ivan, whom I was able to meet in person in Santiago and who, for me, are now part of the face of Ukraine. That's why contact is so relevant, although connections like this are really useful. In this sense, the report elaborated by Ivan Fechko rightly highlights that Chile's diplomatic support for Ukraine against the Russian aggression doesn't depend on the color of the government in power, and it seems its root in its people. This is why the visit of the Ukrainian Prism delegation to Chile was so important. When we were at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in downtown Santiago, the official who received us emphasized the meeting, stating the following, quote, "For Chile to reaffirm its support for Ukraine, it's important to be informed about the conflict's development. This helps to explain Athena's lab permanent relationship with the Ukrainian Prism, and the fruits of which are now becoming visible." Of course, when some members of the audience look at the world map, they might wonder, what's the point of this partnership with a country that hangs off the edge of South America, seemingly turning away from its own region? I want to tell you that this very condition of relative isolation is what has forced Chile, to go out into the world, to participate actively in international organizations and their creation, to build one of the largest networks of free trade agreements in the world, and to contribute to international security based in our capabilities. Always defending the importance of the international rules and as a guiding principle, including those that establish the inviolability of borders. This is why when some European countries, for example, mention their partners in Latin America, they mention my country by name. The United Kingdom did it so in its recent strategic defense review, and high-ranking European Union officials also referred to Chile as one of their two priority partners in the region. The example isn't accidental. As you can see today, we even have the same partners as you. This means that Chile offers a great platform for Ukraine to expand its presence in Latin America and share its message with the region. It's clear to me that democracies as ours, committed to a rule-based international order, Chile and Ukraine, have a natural alignment in terms of values. The question now is how to expand this sphere of interest. A couple of ideas come to my mind. First, Chile is a mining country, the world's largest producers of copper, with world-class professionals, technology, and companies. So we can share this experience with Ukraine to modernize and expand the exploitation of your mineral deposits. Second, in event of a ceasefire, we have significant demining capabilities here, an officer with experience in truth observation, having been deployed to complex borders of Lebanon, Israel, India, Pakistan, Cyprus, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Third, increasing cooperation on Atlantic matters is also important, since geopolitical competition on this continent is on the rise and like-minded countries must work together. Maybe you don't know, but it's common to see your icebreaker, the Nostra, in the port of Punta Arenas during the summer season. A little bit of Ukraine in the coast of Chile. And fourth, lastly, it's important to increase our public diplomacy efforts to counter the constant disinformation for our rivals, with seminars like this and other initiatives. For these reasons and much more, you can count with Athena Lab from Chile. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And this really gives us the perception that it's not only Ukraine who is interested in Chile, but also there are quite an interest both at the values-based and on the interest-based from Chile itself. And with this, I would like to widen our discussion a little bit from the purely bilateral relations, but as we discussed and put the name of this event, that we understand that it is the Chile can be the gateway for Ukraine to the Latin America. And that is also a very important additional value that the country can have for Ukraine. With this in mind, I am giving the floor to Ruslan Spirin, the special representative of the MFA for the Latin America, the guy who looks wider the whole region, not just bilateral relations, to put it to us in the context. Where Ukraine now in Latin America and why Chile is a little bit more important for us, and what are the other countries that we identify there as the top priorities for Ukraine?
Okay, could you hear me? Thanks a lot for the invitation, but I prefer speak Spanish, porque ya estamos aquí en Chile prácticamente y por eso prefiero hablar español. Y todo me entienden. Y saben que aquí en Ucrania, pues todo el mundo habla español, entonces ¿para qué esforzarte demasiado? Así que puedo decirle que saludo a todos, primeramente, saludo a las excelencias, embajadores, a Yuri, amigo mío, y a todos presentes, estimados colegas, distinguidos participantes. Para mí es un honor intervenir en este panel como representante del Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores y en un momento especial que en Ucrania y Chile tienen la oportunidad de dar un salto cualitativo en esta relación bilateral y proyectarla hacia toda la región. Primeramente voy a hablar sobre cooperación política y diplomática. Es que Ucrania y Chile comparten valores, como han mencionado, esenciales: respeto al derecho internacional, defensa a la soberanía, protección de los derechos humanos, y estos no son principios estos abstractos, sino cimientos que nos unen en un contexto internacional complejo. Para transformar esta coincidencia en una alianza estratégica, necesitamos institucionalizar mecanismos de diálogo político, como consultas regulares entre cancillerías, un grupo interparlamentario que acerque a nuestros congresos y un marco de cooperación, en seguridad internacional, por ejemplo. Asimismo, la apertura de la Embajada de Chile en Kiev, ya que tenemos nuestra en Santiago, sería un paso decisivo para dotar de este contenido real de esta relación. Pues Chile, como actor respetado en todo el Cono Sur, en América Latina, puede ser, además de un socio clave para fortalecer la voz de Ucrania en foros regionales, también como Organización de Estados Americanos o en CELAC también. Bien, eso es de política. Pues, hablando también de cooperación económica y comercial, por ejemplo. Economía de Ucrania y Chile son complementarias. Ucrania es un exportador confiable de cereales, aceites, productos agroindustriales, y Chile en su vez es un líder global en minería de litio, por ejemplo, y cobre, energías renovables y agroexportaciones de alta calidad también. Y aquí se abre un terreno fértil para alianzas en seguridad alimentaria, transición energética y cadenas de suministro energéticas igual. En el ámbito tecnológico, Ucrania ofrece su experiencia en IT, ciberseguridad y GovTech, mientras Chile avanza en digitalización y servicios públicos electrónicos. Así que también aquí coincidimos. Y la cooperación científica también es prometedora, desde la biotecnología agrícola hasta la investigación en astronomía y observación satelital. Propongo, por ejemplo, la creación de un Consejo Económico Ucrania-Chile y un acuerdo marco de cooperación científica y tecnológica que permitan a empresas y universidades y centros de innovación trabajar juntos de manera estructurada, por ejemplo. Pues tal vez ya existen tales acuerdos. Bien, luego quisiera hablar sobre la posición de Chile ante la agresión rusa. Eso sí, la guerra de Rusia contra Ucrania es un ataque directo a la orden internacional y todos lo entienden en Chile igual. Y en este contexto la posición de Chile ha sido muy clara, condena de la invasión y defensa de la soberanía de Ucrania. Y para Ucrania este apoyo es crucial, no solo en el ámbito bilateral, sino también en lo regional. Y Chile es una democracia respetada, con autoridad moral en América Latina. Su voz en Naciones Unidas, en la OEA, en CELAC, contribuye a contrarrestar la narrativa rusa y a demostrar que solidaridad internacional no tiene fronteras geográficas, y eso es lo más importante. Y además su postura envía un mensaje muy poderoso. Lo que está en juego en Ucrania no es un conflicto lejano, eso es lo más importante, sino los principios universales que protegen la independencia de todos los estados en el mundo. Bien, luego hablemos de la diplomacia pública y cultural. Quisiera también, finalmente, subrayar la importancia de la diplomacia pública, porque la cultura, la academia y la juventud son puentes más fuertes que cualquier frontera que existe. Podemos imaginar proyectos concretos, tipo Año Cultura Ucrania-Chile, con festivales, con tipo de literatura, música, cine, lo que sea. Un festival Shevchenko Neruda, por ejemplo, que une nuestras tradiciones poéticas, o un programa de jóvenes embajadores culturales, o coproducciones audiovisuales que difundan nuestras historias de resiliencia democrática. Y todas esas iniciativas no solo acercarían a nuestros pueblos, sino que también abrirían puertas para que Ucrania interactúe con toda América Latina a través de Chile. Pues eso creo. Y como conclusión, en síntesis, decir que Ucrania y Chile tienen la oportunidad de construir una alianza estratégica que combine diplomacia política, cooperación económica, respaldo mutuo en foros internacionales y proyectos culturales de gran impacto. Y yo estoy convencido de que juntos podemos demostrar que, aunque separados por los océanos, compartimos la misma visión. Un mundo basado en normas, en el respeto mutuo y en la creatividad de nuestros pueblos. Chile puede ser y debe ser la puerta de entrada de Ucrania a América Latina, y Ucrania a su vez puede ser un puente confiable para Chile hacia Europa Oriental. Pues de eso se trata. A ver qué pasa en estas elecciones en noviembre, diciembre, pero espero que todo va a estar bien como antes. Tenemos que mantener esa buena relación. Con eso, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. As we planned moving from one side to another side of the Atlantic, and we wanted to have both the diplomatic approach, the governmental approach to the bilateral relations, and the expert approach that we already heard. But in the current information societies, there are yet one very important group of actors, those who are creating that information about each other, for giving us this information, for seeing everything sometimes earlier than any of the other people, and that is the journalist. So in this way, for us, it was important also to invite as one of the speakers the Chilean journalists, because these people are traveling through the Atlantic to see by their own eyes what is happening in Ukraine. And they are those who are telling to the societies about what is important. So it is my pleasure to introduce Juan Croquil. I hope I pronounced it correct. Sorry. Ivan is the most Spanish speaker among us, but I will practice later as well. Juan is the well-known Chilean journalist who had experience of working not just with Ukrainian topic, but also covering the beginning of the war. So Juan, your view as a journalist, can Ukraine be interested to the Chilean readers? And what is your impression for the potential for these relations?
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be part of this. And well, it's very difficult to show to Chilean people what happened right now in Ukraine since the invasion, because you have to understand that for Chile, Ukraine is a really exotic country, really far away, with not really important bridges in our culture, in our sport, things like that. Actually, but sorry, in the other hand, we have now the war in Israel with Gaza, and Chile is more interested in that war because we have a lot of people from Palestine living in Chile now in our history, not just right now. So that's the problem that have Ukraine right now to be more interesting for the Chilean people. But in my 3 trips to Ukraine, I saw many things that Ukraine could share with Chile. One of them is the respect of the democracy, of the freedom and the democracy. And I think that when Ukraine stops the war, or where you can get some kind of stop in a time, Chile could help in a new process for that new Ukraine. I think sometimes that Ukraine, when the war stops, have to change many things in their politics and in their institutions for this new Ukraine. And I think that Chile can be helpful in that. That's one point. And the other one, in this same way to make connections between our cultures, I think that Ukraine has an opportunity in sports. Why? Because Chile, we are not really good in sports, more than football and maybe tennis. We are talking about gymnastics, for example. But we don't have many idols in that topic, because we don't have many trainers. We don't have buildings. We don't have infrastructure. We don't have a coach of this kind of sports. And Ukraine has a lot of experience in that. So sometimes I was thinking, like, why don't the foreign relationships make that you can bring some coach of sports to Chile to train the new generations of gymnastics? We have only one gymnastic idol, which is also a friend of mine, and he always had a coach from Russia, for example. But one of the problems that he has with all their kids who are training is that there are no many coaches, good coaches, for that kind of group of people and sports. And I know that Ukraine has a lot. Actually, this friend of mine knows the Ukrainian champion in the Olympics game of gymnastic. Is friend of him. So sometimes maybe in the sports, Ukraine can be really, really useful for the future of the gymnastic and sports in Chile. You have many of that to show to us. And in the other hand, in Chile, like in a comic way, like a cartoon way, the people know that the post-Soviet republics are good in sports. So maybe there is an opportunity there. And in the other side, when I was living in Kiev the last January and February, I watched a lot of movies and series in Netflix about Ukraine. Movies and series made it in Ukraine, but that kind of movies or series, I cannot see them in Chile. You know, if you are in a part of the world, you can see some type of context. Maybe we have to make the work that we can see in Chile in Netflix, that kind of videos, that kind of movies, that kind of series. For example, I watched a series in Ukraine. I don't remember the name, but it was about like 8 stories of people, different people of Ukraine, and what happened with them when when the war started. For example, I thought that it was a really, really good series, but that series produced by Netflix and Ukraine, I cannot see that in Chile. So maybe Ukraine have to start to make the connections with Netflix, for example, or Prime Video, or things like that, for make that content available in Chile. Chile is one of the, I'm not really sure, but maybe it's the country in Latin America who spend more time and money in streaming services like Netflix, like Prime Video, like everything. Also, more than a half of the things that the people listen in Spotify, there are not music, is podcast. So maybe in that way, Chile we could know more about the situation in Ukraine with the movies, with the series. But that type of content we cannot see here. And maybe that's the way how Chile could be more empathizing with Ukraine and know more about the situation in Ukraine and your culture, because there's no much information about Ukraine and the situation here in Chile. Actually, Russia has more infrastructure maybe to show what happened from their side. You know, RT, Russia Today, now is start showcasing here in Chile. But about the Ukraine topics, we don't know much. No more than, okay, Zelensky met with Trump and said that, and oh, another missile attacked Ukraine or Kiev. Maybe sometimes the media here show Ukraine like just numbers of missiles, of drones, of people. But the people don't know how you feel with this situation. And that's a thing that I try to show in my books and in my publications. And for ending my speech, I think that the collaboration between Ukraine and Chile could be in these two parts, like another kind of power, no more than politics, with sports and with entertainment, music, movies, series. That's the only way that the Chilean people could know more about your country, your culture, the things that we have in common, and for know more about the invasion of Russia in Ukraine. And thank you very much for your time and for considering me to show my point of view of this situation and the relationship between Chile and Ukraine.
Thank you very much. And that is definitely the fresh view, because sometimes we are forgetting about the connection of culture and politics, about what creates the perceptions, what creates our bias over there. And if the sportsman can speak, and we saw it many times with the football, with the boxers who became the ambassadors, both Ukrainian abroad, but also other sportsmen who started to speak in support of Ukraine, for example. So those who had the bond at the field or in the Olympics, and then they realized that they would like to support the country and became a vocal voice to which the what is called the street is listening. Yeah, what the common people are ready to hear. With all this in mind, I'm turning now to another expert view, to our partners, the Transatlantic Dialogue Center, who are working a lot in Latin America and also had the visit some time ago to the country, Alexander Slivchuk, with their view and perceptions about the bilateral relations. And probably, Alexander, also, as yours, the specialist on the Latin America, would ask you the question, can Chile really become the gateway for Ukraine to the Latin America, or should we concentrate purely on the bilateral relations? And Arctic, but that is a little bit, separate and very important issue as well, but still bilateral for us.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Ukrainian Prism, for the invitation. Buenas tardes. Thank you. I'm really happy to see all the people we know in Ukraine from Chile, all stakeholders who are firmly on the side of Ukraine from the start of the full-scale invasion. It's a big honor to be with you today. And I will start from answering your question directly, Hannah, because we do not have Argentinians here, so I'm firmly that Chile has already been the getaway for Ukraine to the Latin America for one only reason, because Chile is the only country in the whole region, in the whole Latin America, who has had the state policy towards Ukraine from the beginning of the Russian invasion to Ukraine in 2014, from the Crimea. And doesn't matter which government Chile has, the right one or the left one, Enrique Peñera, then Gabriel Boric, and the position was the same. That is a very positive point for us, for our cooperation, that we know what to expect from Chile. What is super important in bilateral relations in global, we know what to expect from our European colleagues, and sometimes we don't know what to expect from our neighbors. But Chile has shown that from Chilean side, always the policy was the same. They always respected international law, and that's it. Talking about other countries in the region, Argentina is close to Ukraine, but in Argentina, actually, there are a lot of political powers that are close to Russia, or we know this experience we had before Milei government. So the situation there is really difficult. But when talking about Chile, me personally, and I think you had the same experience, that stakeholders from Chile are aware of what is going on in Ukraine, and I think this policy will not change in the future. It's a very positive sign, and I think that Chile as a state has a stable party policy as well. We had a very productive and good meetings in the parliament, and we saw that the position of Chilean left and Chilean center left, center right, and right parties are a lot of times in favor of Ukraine, and that's a good point for us. So I think for the long-term perspective, Chile will be our close ally in commercial side, and political side, and in education as well. And it's what this war really gave us from the positive side, is that we finally met these stakeholders in Chile. We finally traveled to Chile, Chile traveled to Ukraine, and we connected these transatlantic bridges between different institutions, between public sector and civil society, what is super important for us. What is also important is that Chile not only has this position towards Ukraine, but also towards Venezuela. And this tells us a lot, because Venezuela currently it's a dictatorship, and Chile also was one of few countries in South America who called the things like they should be called. And Venezuela is a dictatorship. It doesn't matter which ideology Maduro has or etc. We don't see the same signs from Brazil, for example, or from Colombia. And it's also an example of mature foreign policy, of modern foreign policy, of support for international law. For us, as for Ukraine, who suffered from the violation of international law, it's a clear expression of this partnership, transatlantic partnership, that will last, I think, will last for decades in the future. Also, we in Ukraine, I think we, as continuing from Juan comments regarding what Ukraine can learn from Chile, is a free trade agreements. Chile has a lot of free trade agreements, not only with Western world, but also with Eastern world. Chile is a good example of balancing between China and the United States. Chile is a country in South America who less suffered from Donald Trump tariffs. And it's a good example for us to learn from their foreign diplomacy practices, especially with countries where Ukraine is trying to make these connections in Asia or in so-called global South. I'm not referring to Chile, but global South, like in general. Russia today in Chile is a threat. I'm sure it's a threat, and here we from Ukraine would like to send you this message. It's not about freedom of speech. I think you know it already, but I would like to repeat it, that Russia today is a Russian government instrument, and I think they clearly see that Chilean society, Chilean academia, Chilean stakeholders in politics are in favor of Western style of worldwide Western politics, in favor of Ukraine. Russia today in Chile is not just occasionally. I think they are planning activities to circumvent your democracy, because your democracy is stable. It's one of the most stable democracy in the region, in South America. So it has nothing to do with freedom of speech or journalists, etc. I think that nevertheless, who will win these elections in November, the left or the right? I hope for it. But Russia today will not respect this victory. We see how Russia today in Argentina systematically attack Javier Milei and Javier Milei government and Javier Milei reforms and is firmly on the side of Kirchnerism. I think there is a threat that Chile will face the same problem after your elections in November. So I would like really to this problem to be solved in South America, in Cono Sur. And once again, I'm really happy that we have such a good cooperation between Ukrainian NGOs, Ukrainian think tanks, that there are different initiatives in Ukraine who collaborate with Chile, and there are a lot of stakeholders in Chile who are interested in Ukraine and still support us. It's a huge, very positive experience. I'm sure that next years and after the invasion is finished, and after Ukraine will restore our territorial integrity, Chile will become one of our main commercial ally to reconstruct Ukraine. Because you have earthquakes, you know how to reconstruct cities and infrastructure rapidly, and we will need this experience as well, also together with the mining process. Thank you once again for the invitation. It was a huge honor for me.
Thank you very much. It was the pleasure to listen to so many of the diverse ideas, and I believe that we would put some of them to the recommendations as well for the work of the different structures involved in the bilateral relations. And now we have the remainder 10 minutes probably for the possibility to raise the questions if somebody from the audience would like to have them, because me as moderator, I always have the long list of the questions, but we have the good scope of the participants here. So in case somebody would like to raise the questions to our speakers, it's now your time to raise the hand, and we will give you the floor for the short questions if you would like to have a good answer. So while the audience is thinking, I will ask one question to all of the participants over here. And those who would like to answer, just also either raise your hand or switch on there. Why do you think that now we're speaking about all those prospects of the bilateral relations, but de facto we're speaking about the last 3 years as the breakthrough in these relations? What was the main obstacle for two countries not to start developing the active relation that has such a big potential much earlier?
Can I answer?
Yes, please.
Obviously, the language. Language is a, a really big problem. And I also say again, the exotic point of view of Ukraine from Chile. We don't know nothing about Ukraine. Well, I know, I have been there, but the people don't know. Many people believe that Ukraine is part of Russia. That all the countries, post-Soviet countries, is Russia. It's the same. It's like people who every time are fighting. So I insist the principal obstacle here is that Chile doesn't know anything about Ukraine. The things that the people know about Ukraine is, well, the war, obviously, and Chernobyl, because the series. When we have the series of HBO about Chernobyl, all Chile watch it. All Chile watch it. And all the people was talking about that. And that's the only thing that we know about Chernobyl, about Ukraine, is Chernobyl. So I repeat my idea. We need in Chile more movies, more series, and more things about Ukraine for watch it in streaming to know more about your lifestyle or your culture and your situation in the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else, or I'm giving the floor to the yeah, Juan Pablo.
Just to jump in the topic, and I agree with Juan. Of course, we don't know much about Ukraine, but also there is inside Chile there's political forces that supports Russia. I mean, the Communist Party, and one of the main candidates, a lady, she belongs to the Communist Party. So, and these parties are part of the government coalition. So inside the government coalition, the case of Ukraine, of the case of the world, is divisive inside the coalition. So there's sectors inside the government that they don't want to raise the issue because they know that there's different positions. So that affects the coalition. So there's a problem. So there are people inside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that are managing this issue in a very careful way. But for your tranquility and for ours, I think if the polls are correct, this lady is not going to win the next election, and probably a winner of the next election is going to maintain the support of Ukraine. That's a good thing, but we need to recognize that there's internal forces here that really believe that the war was caused by NATO expansion and that kind of narratives. So that we need to recognize that, and we need to counter these narratives. And of course, we need to know much more about Ukraine, and your recent visit helped us a lot in that way. And now it's our job to visit Ukraine and transmit your message here from Ukraine to Chile. Thank you.
Thank you. I see the hand, Alexander Labenko.
Thank you, Hannah. My name is Alexander. I'm from National University of Life and Environmental Sciences, the biggest life science university in Ukraine. And my question is about, did you ever thought about bringing attention of Ukrainian universities and maybe to increase collaboration, not increase, but to establish, seems to me, establish collaboration between Ukrainian and Chilean universities. There are maybe not so many so-called bridges to establish collaboration, but as far as I know, Chile also encouraged to participate, Chilean universities encouraged to participate in Horizon Europe projects. That's a bridge when we can find common interest. As far as I know, farmers from Chile and scientists and researchers from Chile actually deliver some online courses to Ukrainian farmers in growing some niche cultures. So that might be of interest to establish this collaboration or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Who will be able to answer? I see the other people from the embassy as well. Do we have any dialogue? As like Ukrainian Prism had the meetings with the universities, but with the political sciences, definitely what is our. But how interested are the Chilean universities in the academic collaboration with Ukraine? I don't know. I'm looking also on the screen to Vladislav, who is in the country, but also Juan Pablo, who has affiliations with the universities. Juan Pablo, you can start.
Yeah, yes, this thanks for the question. It's a very good one because we believe that we need to strengthen ties between not only governments, also between the civil society of both countries. And universities are a very important part of the civil society. And during the recent visit of the Ukraine Prism delegation, they've been able to visit two universities here, Universidad of Chile and Universidad Católica. Yeah? In the case, I'm a teacher, I'm a professor at the Universidad Católica and in the Faculty of Communications. I think the Universidad Católica was the first university in Latin America that organized a dialogue with President Zelensky. Was the first direct dialogue via Zoom or via Teams or these kind of platforms, but with a university. So this shows the interest of the Chilean universities to understand better what is going on, and the next phase is to increase or to develop institutional ties between university and Hannah informed me that there's a program of cooperation between Catholic universities in Ukraine and University of Chile. So I think there's now work in progress on that. So it's a very important thing because basically to fill the vacuum that Juan identifies knowledge, we need more programs. We need this kind of we need to invite professors or teachers from Ukraine to explain the conflict here, or experts, and of course it's a good initiative. Anything that involves young generations and universities.
I see yet one hand, or that was the hand, or
yeah, sure. I can continue the Juan Pablo Toro point, and great to see all the colleagues, and I would like to commend that the last year one memorandum on the cooperation between Chile Autonomous University and Taras Shevchenko Kyiv National University was signed, and it was the last year, and at the beginning of this year, so the cooperation memorandum between the oldest and the most respected universities in Chile between the University of Chile and Kiev and Taras Shevchenko Kiev National University was signed, and we are working on a couple of others memorandums of cooperation between, and especially in agricultural sphere. So this topic keeps in focus of our embassy and especially of our ambassador. So we're really into it. So I hope that in some time you'll see on our website and our social media some news on the topic. And thank you.
Thank you. So I think that we have this potential, and probably the embassy can be the good starting point to communicate what is the interest of other universities and with whom to cooperate. And I see yet one hand, so that would be our last.
I think ambassador has something to add.
Yeah. Now I see his hand. Here you're on the
Ambassador.
Yes, thank you. Just to add a few words to Vladislav's information, in all my regional visits, and I have made 4 or 5 of them just this year, I'm trying to meet not only with the governors, with the mayors of the cities, but with the rectors of the universities. It's an obligatory part of my visits, and while meeting with the rectors, I speak with them in the cooperation with one specific Ukrainian university. We try to find the profile close of the Ukrainian and Chilean universities, and then we offered some universities of Ukraine, and they choose one, and now we are in a process of 3 or 4 MOU negotiation between different universities of Ukraine and Chile in specific areas which are interested. For Magallanes, it's one interest. For Los Lagos, it's another university. So this is an important part of our work, and we do understand the importance of this job. So we are doing it.
That's really important, and especially considering the size of Chile, we understand that you cannot concentrate only at the capital, and having strong universities in other cities as well, that gives quite a potential for the additional topics and universities of the cooperation. As I said, the last question is coming from I'm reading as it is here, so sorry if it is not the full name, Slava Musienko. As far as I see it here.
Yes,
feel free.
thank you. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
I just want to ask a general maybe question, but it's quite interesting because first of all, nice to meet you. Thank you for great organization and really nice discussion. My name is Vyacheslav Musienko. I'm working with global South countries to tie with Ukraine as well. So I would like to ask, in my daily conversation, I see that social media plays a really influence on the people, as well as Ukraine and Latin America countries. I'd like to ask which the social media in daily use the Chilenos. So as we see that in Europe we can do some difference of social medias, but in Chile it's a kind of difference, maybe TikTok or something. So maybe you can share your ideas. Maybe it can relate it to Juan Vallejos to say something about which kinds of social media Chileans use day to day, and can we somehow influence Chileans to somehow interested in Ukraine?
Well, the social media that we use here in Chile, we use all of them, and that's not true. But it depends of the public. For example, if you want to show the things about Ukraine to the older people, maybe, or the people in the regions, not in Santiago, is Facebook. Facebook is the way to get in regions in Chile to all people, I guess. But TikTok, it's really useful for the young people, for the people in the universities, For example, all my work that I made in Ukraine, I show it in TikTok. Included the interview with Zelensky, I only publish it in TikTok. And also on YouTube, but TikTok is the main one to show to more people. But on the other hand, there are a lot of pressures in Chilean TikTok from the Russian propaganda. For example, when I upload something about Ukraine, in no more than 5 minutes, I started to receive a lot of trolls, Chilean trolls, in favor of Russia, sorry, and also comments in Russian. And that's organized by I think, an organization here in Chile called Caterina Corporation, who is in charge to be in contact for all the content who support Ukraine, maybe, or show things about Ukraine. What else? In politics, for example, if you want to make a show maybe to the politicians, is Twitter, X. But there is also there many people who are waiting for any publication about Ukraine to attack them. I know, for example, there are some groups, political groups, as say Juan Pablo, who don't like Ukraine. They are supporting Russia, and they share content, for example, content that I made about Ukraine, saying, hey, he uploaded a new thing about whatever. And they start that the Ukraine government paid me to go there, that I received money from Zelensky, I didn't have money, and things like that. So I think to show things to Chile, you have to use TikTok and Facebook. Well, obviously Instagram too, but if you want to go to new publics, you have to use TikTok. But you have to understand the humor and the way that we use TikTok, the trends that we use here in TikTok. And I think that could be made it with the embassy, because it's the connection with Chile and Ukraine here. So I think that it could be in that way. Facebook for the old people, TikTok for the young and massive public, I think.
Thank you very much. And Ivan, can I ask you to summarize our roundtable? Or it's difficult to use the word roundtable now with the screens in front of us, but our meeting today, and what are the perspectives for all of us? The final word is with you.
Yes, surely, but if you may just give a floor to one participant from the office audience, to Anna from Mohila University. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, dear esteemed participants, dear guests. Thank you very much. If I may, just a brief question. So you mentioned, we'll of course talk about the bilateral relations between Chile and Ukraine. But you briefly mentioned a lot, and if I may ask, what is your opinion about any regional organizations? So can or shall Ukraine Chile focus on any organization in the region which could potentially be used also as a platform for further efforts? Thank you so much.
Mr. Spirin, probably that would be a good question for you as you cover the whole region. What about regional organizations? Can Chile help us with them? Do we interested in the Latin American regional organizations?
For sure. Claro que es que sí, voy a hablar español como antes.
Sí, claro, muchas gracias. Es un honor.
Perfecto. Es que podemos hablar sobre la desinformación rusa, pero las oportunidades para iniciativas conjuntas entre Ucrania y Chile en plataformas internacionales son enormes, como la ONU o OEA, como Organización de Estados Americanos. Sin duda, Ucrania y Chile tienen coincidencias fundamentales en su compromiso con el derecho internacional y los derechos humanos, y eso abre un espacio natural para iniciativas conjuntos. Y claro que en la ONU, por ejemplo, podemos coordinar resoluciones sobre la condena de la agresión rusa y la defensa de la soberanía de los estados. Y en la Organización de Estados Americanos, Chile puede ser un aliado clave para reforzar la narrativa que la seguridad de Europa y la de América están conectadas. Y si se acepta la violación de fronteras en un continente, se abra un precedente peligroso en otro. Y bien, también podemos trabajar juntos en iniciativas positivas, no solo reactivas, tipo cooperación en ciberseguridad o seguridad alimentaria y transición energética, donde tanto Ucrania como Chile tienen experiencias que pueden beneficiar a toda la comunidad internacional. Y la fuerza de una relación bilateral se mide también en la capacidad de proyectarse en las plataformas multilaterales, internacionales, todas las plataformas internacionales. Y en ese sentido, Chile y Ucrania pueden ser socios estratégicos como estamos esperando.
Thank you very much. Ivan, the floor is yours. Juan Pablo, I see your hand. You wanted to add something, yes?
Yes, well, it's a very complex problem when you think in regional organizations here, because there's a lot of polarization inside these organizations. Because the Venezuelan case is very divisive inside the region, so there are different positions, and now right now the many of the regional organizations, sub-regional organizations, are really not working. I mean, you got the Organization of American States, of course, the bigger one, but then you got Mercosur, then you got UNASUR that is almost dead. Then you got SICA in Central America, then you got CARICOM in the Caribbean. So there's a lot of organizations here. But the problem right now is this polarization, because the situation in Venezuela caused this polarization. Different countries have different approaches. And of course, you got Brazil in a very ambiguous position towards the war in Ukraine caused by the Russian illegal invasion. So Brazil is not just another country in the region. It's the biggest one. They pretend to be the leader of the region, but they're not the leaders. But anyway, they're still very important. So if Brazil is very ambiguous in order to condemn the Russian aggression, even to his president visit Moscow in this year for the Victory Day, it's problematic. It's problematic, because there's no consensus inside regional organizations about the war in Ukraine, and this is problematic. But if you see the coming elections in Latin America, probably the right wing is going to be represented in a very strong way in next year, and probably in Chile or in Bolivia and Colombia, of course, next year. Don't know about Peru, but probably Peru. And there's going to be a new landscape next year in Latin America, and I think the new landscape is going to be more leaning to the West, and of course more is going to be more supportive to Ukraine, because now Milei's government, now Novo's government in Ecuador, now supporting Ukraine, and of course the Chilean government, probably the new government in Bolivia too, and the next government in Colombia too. So it's going to be another landscape next year. And so probably next year it's better to think in regional organizations.
Thank you very much. Ivan,
Yeah. Okay. To sum up, of course, first of all, thank you to all participants and for our distinguished speakers. That was really interesting discussion, and I think we have proven that Chile remains one of the most consistent and principal supporters of Ukraine in Latin America, and firmly by for international law, participation in multilateral initiatives, and that also demonstrates Chile's growing influence and leadership in the region. And second, we have identified today significant opportunities for cooperation in different spheres, not only political or diplomatic, but also we mentioned very important fields like education, of course, academia, and social media, everything important to reach Chilean society, yet to connect our societies. And finally, our discussion has shown that Chile can become really a key gateway for Ukraine's engagement with Latin America, because as we mentioned today, that now Latin America is really a priority for Ukraine's foreign policy. Now we are trying to improve our relations despite the geographical distance. Now we understand better each other, and I think it helps a lot to reach a common interest by working together through regional organization or bilaterally. We can amplify Ukraine's voice, also strengthen our economic ties, and contribute to global stability and security. And mention again our research. It's called the new etap of cooperation. So let's hope that it's really a new etap, and that we have more and more way of cooperation in future to have more interaction in different levels.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure for the Ukrainian Prism to have all of you with us today. And we hope that it is just the beginning, the first one that we have online, that we would have the series of the different Latin American discussions with the different countries, but also with Chile on the more specific topics that would be of the interest for the joint agenda. And at the same time, we really hope that we would have the other opportunities to meet in person. So to fill that gap that Juan been emphasizing here, and we are very grateful for the help with our trip to Chile, because it gave us also the perception what are the most important topics for all of us, not only to speak about Ukraine, but also to hear about Chile and what are the expectations from another side of the Atlantic. I hope that we also will be able to greet our Chilean colleagues in Ukraine, and that with all those initiatives discussed for the next years, we would have quite a full agenda how to fill these bilateral relations.